Hello, and welcome to this episode of Be the Wolf. You know, there's this thing that's been happening so much lately that I decided to do a podcast episode on it. So, this thing that's happening is I invite people to a thing and they say, "Oh, I want to, but I can't because XYZ." And so, here's the thing. If you do this, because I used to do this all the fucking time. So if you do this, or if people do this to you a lot when you invite them to things or you ask them if they want to do something, this episode is going to be for you. And it's important because this pattern that I'm going to talk about will affect your relationships. It will affect your health and it will affect your business. So if you have that pattern or people tend to do that a lot with you, you're going to want to listen to this episode if you're not having all the success you want in your business, your health, and your relationships. All right, let's get started. So, okay, the first thing about people saying, well, I can't. Oh, I really want to, but I can't. The first thing is some people have a trouble saying no. And I get this, and it makes sense to me that I, of course, would attract other people who have trouble saying no because like attracts like. And I've definitely had a big time problem saying no. In fact, I even went so far as to work all the time so that I'd have a built in excuse to say no. Now, I also was working all the time for other reasons, but one of the benefits was people would ask me to do something. If I didn't want to do it, I had an excuse. I had an excuse to say no. I can't because I have to work. I can't because XYZ. So maybe you hear, or maybe you say, I can't because I have all these other things I have to do. I can't because I have prior obligations. All these reasons why you can't. But the thing is, if you could just say no, you wouldn't have to give a reason. So, hey, Genea, do you want to go to this party? No. And even then, even though I'm not talking to anybody specifically, and nobody has actually asked me to this party, but me saying that, I couldn't say it 100% clear. I couldn't just say, no, I don't want to go. That time I did, but that time just a minute ago, I shook my head a little bit. I had a little twinge in my body that was like, oh, it's that little fear, like, oh, are they going to not like me? Are they going to be mad at me if I say, no, I don't want to go? That is the truth. But there's these little white lies that we say, oh, no, I have to work. I have to do this. I have to. But and those things may be true, but it's not the truth. The truth is that you don't want to go. And so there's this thing inside some of us, me, and a lot of the people I work with, where it's really hard to say the truth when it comes to what we want. Now, I can say the truth of, like, yes, this is blue. Yes, this is green. I can say the truth about a lot of things. But when it comes to what I want, what I truly want, it's hard to say, no, I don't want to do that. It's hard to say, yes, I totally want to do that. Count me in. Because stories from my past have told me that it was bad if I said no. That maybe they wouldn't like me. Maybe they would leave me. Maybe there would even be worse consequences. Like maybe I would get in trouble. Maybe my mom would yell at me. Maybe my mom would send me to my room. Maybe my mom would hit me. These things that were prevalent in my young childhood. So saying no came with consequences. Saying no, I don't want to do that came with consequences. Well, you have to. Scary, scary, like parent or caregiver that didn't want, that wanted you to do what they wanted you to do, not what you wanted to do. And so when we come up with these excuses and we say, oh, I really want to, but I can't, consider, if it's you that says that, consider that maybe you grew up feeling like there were consequences to asking for what you want or advocating for what you want. And maybe there's fear around saying no and clearly stating what you want. So you learned that you had to convince people why you don't want to do it. You have to give them a good reason. And if you have to give somebody a good reason for why you don't want to do something, then there's some fear going on inside of you. And if you're making your decisions from fear, you're doing a couple of things in these interactions. You're not being authentic. You're not truly connecting. You're actually not giving them the opportunity to learn about you. If I say, no, I don't want to go to this party, and if they say, why? I could say, well, it just, parties aren't that fun to me. Or there's something I would rather do that night. I would rather wash my hair. Okay, maybe I would not rather wash my hair, but that was an old timey excuse back in the day when women would like wash their hair and set and curl it, and it was a big to do. So that was a standard excuse. Oh, I can't go because I have to wash my hair. So for me, I know that if I say no and it's followed with an excuse, that I have some fear around telling the truth. And that fear around telling the truth is something to do with worry that they won't like me, worry that maybe I won't get the invitation again, worry that it's not okay to want what I want, and say it and advocate for it. And I remember this older woman I know was telling me she used to go dancing a lot. And she was telling me how she would hide when the guys that she didn't want to dance with would come up, and she would like, oh, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom, or like run away. And we've all done this. I know, like somebody's coming out, like, oh, you don't want to talk to them, so you like run away. It's like you don't want to dance with them. But she didn't want to say no because she was worried that people would stop asking her to dance, and she loved to dance. So she spent this time running around trying to figure out how to get away from the person that she didn't want to dance with, instead of just saying, I don't want to dance with you, because she didn't want to hurt their feelings and then risk not being asked to dance. And maybe that person would go and talk shit about them, and then nobody would ask her to dance. And I totally get it. I lived my life in that place. And also, those things could happen. But for me, it's become really important to be authentic, to say the truth. No, I don't want to dance with you right now. I could say that. And maybe that's still, as I say it out loud, oh, it's still a little bit of a white lie, still a little bit of that excuse, a little bit of that, like, oh, I'm trying to get out of it by giving them something. So it's still not 100% authentic. And even though I have done all this work and I'm really clear and really authentic most of the time and light years away from where I was, there's still that little thing that happens inside of me. Now, another reason people will say, I want to, but I can't, is they actually do have prior obligations. I mean, it was true that I had to work, but I could have taken the time off if it was something I really wanted to do. And I think that sometimes, I know at least for me, you feel trapped with your prior obligations. And so if those obligations are actually things that that are fine, but now given this opportunity to go to this party, maybe now I really want to go to the party and I have this obligation, like maybe it's work, maybe it's something else. And so, the questions, the things that have been coming up for me when people have been saying, "Oh, I really want to, but I can't." So I have firewalk events, and this firewalk event, most recent one that what happened, people would say, "Oh, I really want to come, but I can't. I have these prior obligations." And one thing I've learned is when you start taking full responsibility for your experience and you are dedicated to creating a life that you love, you let go of some of those obligations to do the things that you want. See, for me, because I love firewalking and I know the outcome that I get from that is more freedom, more expansion, more ability to hold and have capacity to hold the life that I love. So for me, that's going to trump a lot of other obligations, even things that I want to do. So you give me the opportunity to firewalk and I have prior obligations, I'm going to move those prior obligations around. And a lot of people, my old self included, didn't feel like it was allowed to move those obligations. Once I said yes to something, then I was locked in and committed again. Like, it's like if you're locked in and committed and you say you have to do it, because you have to stay true to your word, because what horrible things are going to happen if you break your word. But what I've learned over time is that people are fine. If I call them up and say, "Hey, I'm not going to make it to your party because I got this opportunity to firewalk and that's really important to me. So I love to come to your party next time." Great. People are like, "Oh, cool." I know when people say, "Oh, I have this opportunity. Oh, a family member came in town that I never got to see. So I'm going to spend time with them instead of going to our lunch." I'm excited for them if it's something that's really meaningful and important to them. And so people are okay with you breaking your commitments when it's for something that you really want. And that's what I've noticed when it's something that you really want or something that's really important to you, people are okay. And so for me, it used to feel like, oh, if I broke the commitment, they would hate me and they would leave me and they would never give me an opportunity again. They would never ask me to dance again. And so what I've learned by breaking commitments, but breaking commitments from the truth for something that is actually more important to me. And that has made all the difference. If I broke a commitment because I'm just like, oh, I just want to be lazy in the house and like wallow in my sorrows, like people are like, they don't like those kind of things. They're like hollow. But when you're breaking a commitment for something that is true and right for you and really grounded and aligned with who you are, people can feel that. And they're more than okay to like let it go. But when you're breaking a commitment for something that's hollow, oh, I'm hungover, I just don't feel good. Oh, I'm feeling under the weather. Like when it's this excuse to get out of it, when you're coming up with an excuse, people can feel the energy behind it. It's hollow. So it's interesting, as people have said, the other thing that people have said, I really want to, but I can't. Have been my weekly clarity calls, which are every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. And so I'm inviting people to come and they're like, oh, I really want to, but I have Wednesday mornings are super busy or things like that. And it's hollow. It's hollow because it's not really the truth. The truth is either they don't want to come or they are scared to carve out the time for what they want. And so it's interesting because I've gotten so attuned to the frequency of what people say and what people do that I can sense whether something is hollow or whether it's based in truth. I can feel the frequency of truth, and everybody can do this. The more in tune you are to yourself, the more in tune you are to the truth of what everybody else says. And so that's, something to just notice. And I did a white lie the other day when I made some excuse about something, and afterwards I was like, "Oh shit. There was no reason to do that. I could have just told the truth." But there's that fear of, it was in a say, I walked into a car dealership and they were like, "Oh, are you looking for you?" or da da da. And I just, this old pattern of, oh, in a sales situation, I have to pretend like I'm not there, like da da da, because I don't want them to try and sell me. And so is this old story of feeling like I would get taken advantage of. And so we do this, we say no, and we say these white lies for these reasons. Another reason is just you're in a habit, right? So in that moment with the call out car dealership situation, it was a habit for me to say no or to do that white lie in that circumstance. And I realized after, I was like, there was no need for it. And my nervous system didn't even register and need that like it did in the past. But because it was such a habit, I just did it the old way anyway. And so notice if you have a habit of saying, I can't come, or I can't participate, or no, or whatever it is, just notice. Notice what it would feel like to say something different, interrupt the pattern. And the other thing, the other place where people do it is they're really overwhelmed already. They want to, but they just don't have any space in their calendar. Again, part of that is like being scared to move things around, but also they've overwhelmed themselves with all these obligations and they have too much to do. And so they don't feel like there's any room, because it feels like if they take any of those obligations off the table, that something terrible is going to happen. Right? So it's like, oh, they're not going to like me anymore. But it's like, oh, what happens if I don't do my social media post today? Like, will my business go under? So there's all these things, these obligations that we feel like have strings and consequences to if we don't do them. One thing, years ago, I was in this program and they were telling me, stop doing all your other marketing, just do this. And what I learned during that time is, one, I still needed to be doing some of the other things that I was doing. But by systematically stopping all of the other things that I was doing, I was able to see what actually was impactful and what wasn't. I could see that I had been grinding my gears, spinning and doing a lot of things that didn't actually serve a purpose, that didn't actually create results. And part of that was because I had this story that I had to be busy, and that the more I got done, the more things I did, the more worthy I was. And then therefore, if I was working really hard, then good things would come to me. But working hard and being busy doesn't necessarily equal results. And so if you don't have the space to incorporate the things that you love, things that you really want to do, you're not going to ever be able to make that space in your business. You're not going to make that space in relationships. If you have to be busy, if you have to fill all the space all of the time, because that's how you feel comfortable, that's how you feel like something's getting done. Like so many of my clients and my old self too, it's like, oh God, I need to get more done. I haven't been as productive as I need to be. And if that's the case, if you're feeling like that, you don't have space to add the things that you want to do because you're doing for the sake of proving. And you may not be aware of that, but it's happening at a subconscious level. At least for me, it was, and most of my clients. And so, because of that need to prove, there was no room to create the space. I couldn't create the space. If I created the space to put in something that I wanted, I felt like there were bad things would happen. Oh God, well, if I'm doing what I want and what's right for me, that is the opposite of proving how valuable and worthy I am to the world. So, if you're a person who, like me, would say, I can't because XYZ, or maybe you have a lot of people who are doing that to you, which also is a sign you might have the problem too, whether you're aware of it or not, maybe consider looking deeper. But if it's happening to you a lot, have some compassion, because this is what's going on with people internally when they say, I can't because XYZ. There's fear that's happening inside of them, and their nervous system is scared to speak the truth. And we all have this to some degree at some time or another. But if it's happening to you a lot, there might be something you need to do about getting your nervous system in a state of being able to operate from the truth of who you are, from the truth of what you want. And in that, it allows you to ask for what you want, ask for what you need, be able to take the space for you, be able to put yourself first in relationships and business. And when you start putting yourself first in business, your business starts to reshape into a business that actually feels good to you. When you put yourself first in relationships, you're not relying on the other person to fill you up. And obviously, when you put yourself first in your health, you just begin to feel better. So if you want a life that feels good, that's something that needs to be done, is you need to start putting yourself first. Now, if you want to join my clarity calls, you can come every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. And in this, we dig deep into uncovering the invisible things that are keeping you from getting the things that you want, so you can get clear, so you can start making decisions that are right for you. And they're open to anybody who's willing to go deep and look at the truth. If you're interested in firewalking, you can connect to me and ask about the events that I have coming up. I do firewalking events and other events. If you're interested in coaching, you can ask me about that too. But these are all ways that will help you start to put yourself first, without the guilt, without the shame, without the worry. So there's something that's really important for everybody to remember. And it's to remember that when you operate from the truth of who you are, and that is about putting yourself first, your needs and yourself first, when you operate from that truth, humanity evolves, because how you move through the world actually impacts the world in a positive way. You're giving without even knowing about it, just by being 100% your authentic and true self. And that's what being the wolf is all about. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.